Have you ever heard the saying, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with"? Well, it seems like those associations can sometimes reveal more than we bargained for. Today, on our channel, we explore the tangled web of friendships and their surprising revelations. A couple of days ago, I went out to a hockey game with a friend of mine. I'll call her Anaya, and my boyfriend's friend. I'll call him Edward. Originally, my boyfriend was supposed to come with us, but he ended up getting called into work to cover a night shift. So last minute, my boyfriend asked Edward if he wanted to take his place, to which he said yes. We've all gone out together before. Anaya knows Edward, but we haven't all spent time together, just the 3 of us. It's always been a bigger group setting, or with just my boyfriend and I and Edward and his wife, or my boyfriend and I and Anaya and her husband. Remember that Edward and Anaya are both married, and they aren't married to each other. This is important. So we go out for dinner before the hockey game to get some wings and a few beers, because the beers at the arena are insanely expensive. We get a little tipsy and get to the game, and I notice Edward and Anaya kind of getting a little close. She's laughing a little more than usual. He's getting a little more handsy, but she's not pushing him away. I mean, Edward is funny, but he's not that funny. So I'm trying to enjoy the game and sort of ignore whatever it is they think they're doing. Then Edward and Anaya say, "Hey, we should go out for drinks after." And I'm like, "Hey, I don't want to." At this point, because I've had a long work week, I honestly don't trust them alone together. I just have this gross feeling, so I feel pressured to say yes. Anaya's like, "Don't worry, we'll just go out for one and head home." And I'm like, "Okay, one I can do." So we go to this bar across the street from the arena after the game, but instead of one, they both go on to have about 4 or 5 more. I'm pissed off at this point because I'm tired and practically sober. And the third wheel. They are so into each other, it's disgusting. And I'm getting an Uber ready to pick me up because I want no part of this. I also try to ask them about their partners and their kids any chance I can get, like, "Oh, how's so-and-so doing?" Or, "It was so-and-so's birthday just last month. What did you guys get up to?" But they weren't taking the bait. At this point, I'm also texting my husband everything that I see. But because of the work that he doesn't have access to his phone until a certain period during his shift. So I know he's not going to respond right away. So the Uber comes and I'm like, "Okay guys, I'm out of here." And they're like, "Oh, can we just catch a ride and then we'll pay the difference?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." So they get in the back seat of the Uber and I'm in the front. We're on the way to my house and I go to look back and they're making out. Hard with each other. Like hard. The Uber gets to my house and I just leave without even saying goodbye to them. I go inside and I'm trying to sleep, but I literally can't stop thinking about their families. I thought I knew Anaya. We've been friends since our first year at university. I've been to both of their weddings, and I've held both of their babies in my hands. I got her a job with my dad at his company, and she's the graphic designer there. I cannot believe that they've both done this. I'm regretting the fact that I call them both friends. They always say that you're a part of the company you keep around you, and now I'm second-guessing our friendship. It's about 3 a.m. when my phone goes off, and because I'm a light sleeper, I check out my phone and see that my husband has finally responded to all of my messages. He's just as repulsed as I am. He apologizes to his buddy Edward, and he's like, "I can't believe that they did that right in front of you." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, could you imagine if I wasn't there? Like, why would they be so into each other with someone who knows their family so well?" And he's like, "Yeah, that is weird." And then I'm like, "Should I tell their partners?" And he's like, "No, you should stay out of it. You don't want to get wrapped up in stuff like that." And I'm like, "What? I'd want to know if you were cheating on me like that. Wouldn't you want to know?" And he's like, "Sometimes ignorance is bliss." And I'm like, HM, okay, I'll see you when you get home. That whole conversation didn't sit well with me. Ignorance is bliss. What the F does that mean? So I try to bury the fact that my husband just said that and try to get some shut-eye. Then the morning comes and my husband gets in early and he's tired and crawls into bed. I'm like telling him that what I saw shook me up. And he's like, "Yeah, that's awful. I can't even imagine." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think I can just sit on this. I feel like I have to say something. It's just weighing so heavy on me." And he's like, "Stay out of it. It's none of our business." And I'm like, how is it none of my business when they just did that right in front of me? And then he turns to me and we're laying in bed and his voice gets all stern and he's like, Anaya and Edward have been seeing each other for the last 7 months, and Edward swore me to secrecy to not tell anyone. He asked me if you were cool with it, and I said yes. So if you say something to their partners, it means I lied to them. And I'm like, why the F would you say something like that and put words in my mouth? Why would you think that's ever okay? And he's like, Edward is like a brother to me. I've known him since grade school. He's not happy with his wife. He hates his life. Just let him have this. And I'm like, what on earth is going on? So now I'm out of bed and I'm standing there thinking that I don't know any of these people. I look at him laying there in our bed and I'm like, you may be cool with it, but I'm most definitely not cool with this. So if you still want to be cool with me, you need to make this right. And you need to tell Edward and Anaya that they need to get their crap together and come clean with everyone. Or decide to leave their spouses if they're so dang unhappy. And then I get up and go to our little son and go downstairs to make us breakfast. My husband doesn't say anything else. He doesn't come downstairs, he just goes back to sleep. I'm trying to enjoy some playtime with our son, but in my head I'm like, how did all of this just unfold like this? How could Anaya do this to me? Not that she owed me anything, but like, I feel like I put my neck out there and got her hired with my dad's company when she couldn't find a job elsewhere. The industry was saturated at the time. I don't like pulling the "my dad owns a company" card. I don't like being that person, but she practically begged me to help her out because at the time, her husband had been laid off and wasn't working. She had just finished school and they had a 1-year-old. And yeah, I just felt bad. And she was a friend, so I couldn't let them suffer like that. I would have wanted someone to help me if they were able. So I ended up texting Anaya around lunchtime, and I asked if she got home okay, and she said, yes, thank you for such a great night. I hope you had fun. And I was like, dude, what was that with Edward? And then I see her typing something out. But then she stops typing, and I sort of wait for her to say something, and then I get nothing. Then, about a half hour later, she calls me, and she's like, hey, I thought you were cool with all of this. Edward said that Greg, my husband, told you. I'm like, no, he didn't. And I'm not cool with this. How could you do this to Dylan, her husband? She's like, everyone has their secrets, Op. Don't pretend like you don't have any. And I'm like, what the F is that supposed to mean? And she's like, there's a lot you don't know. No, Op, if you say anything to Dylan, you're going to open up one ugly can of worms. And then I'm like, Anaya, what the F? And she's like, for real, mind your own business. I thought you were cool. I thought we were friends. Now I know who my true friends are. And she hangs up on me. I'm standing in my kitchen like, what the F did that just happen? Also, she has no idea who she's messing with. And I text her and I'm like, you seem to forget who had your back when you were at your lowest. But if you want to go there, we can. Okay. So then I go upstairs and wake up Greg and tell him the conversation that I just had with Anaya. I'm like, what the F does she mean by this? And he gets sort of grumpy and mad at me for waking him up. And he's like, why are we even having this conversation right now? I told you to leave it alone, and now you've just pissed her off. And then he looks at his phone and sees that both Edward and Anaya have left voicemails and text messages, and he's like, great, they're probably both livid. And then he gets up and he's like, dang it, Op, why couldn't you have just left it alone? And I said, because it's the right thing to do. If she's lying to me about this, then what else could she be lying and hiding from me? And he's like, just leave it to me. I'll give them a call and calm them down. And I'm like, we shouldn't even be having anything to do with these people. And he's like, these people are our friends. And I'm like, how can we associate with people who do this to their loved ones and make us lie for them and hide the truth from people? And he goes, I'll talk to them, both of them, and get this all taken care of. Just don't talk to either of them anymore and stay out of it. Am I overreacting? Should I tell their spouses? What should I do? Seriously, who does that kind of stuff right under the nose of someone who knows their significant others, their families, their deepest secrets? It's like they were daring you to call them out on their BS. Or maybe they were just banking on your silence. But hey, looks like they underestimated your moral compass. It's like they were living in their little bubble of delusion, forgetting that the real world has consequences. And as for Anaya, talk about biting the hand that feeds you and your husband. Well, he's got some explaining to do. Keeping secrets about secret affairs, HM? That's a red flag. You have a choice to make. Do you unleash the drama bomb and tell their partners? Or do you sip your tea and watch the chaos unfold from the sidelines? I mean, like you said, You'd want someone to tell you if your husband was cheating. Update. Hi, I'm back. Not too long after my first post, I have no contact with both Edward and Anaya. I delete them both off social media, and I tell Greg to not have anything to do with them, and he says sure at first. But then legit, a week later he says he's going out for beers at the local pub here with some buddies to watch the game. I'm like, okay, who's gonna be there? And he names awesome guys, and then also mentions Edward. I'm like, okay, well, we already agreed that you weren't going to see Edward again. And he goes, how am I going to stop seeing him when we have mutual friends that we've both grown up with? And I'm like, I don't know, tell the truth and out him to everyone. And he's like, most of the guys know. They just don't have an issue with it like you do. And I'm like, wow, don't bother coming home tonight. And then we get in a big fight, and he packs an overnight bag and leaves. Well, he texts me about 2 hours later, and he apologizes and tells me that he realizes just how bad Edward is, and he doesn't want something like this getting in the way of our relationship. So I'm just about to apologize too. But I'm also on Snapchat, and I go on to the location settings. I see that Greg is still sharing his location, and it's life, but it's not at the local pub. It's at Edward's house. Then I call Greg, and he doesn't pick up, and he says, sorry, hun, it's really loud in here with the game. I'm like, I know you're at Edward's. And then he calls me, but I don't answer. Then I text him and tell him that he can stay at Edward's and tell him he's no better than his cheating butt. So that's where we're at. It's like the drama just keeps on coming, huh? It's a tough spot to be in, dealing with someone you care about who's tangled up with someone you've made clear you want nothing to do with, and then finding out they're not where they said they'd be. That's a whole other level of betrayal. It's natural to feel hurt and betrayed in a situation like this, and it's okay to take the time you need to process everything and figure out what's best for you. Trust is a fragile thing, and it's not something that can be easily rebuilt after it's been broken. Just remember you deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty in your relationships, and it's okay to demand those things from people you care about. Update 2. I'm back. Greg is still at Edward's. I can see his location is still there. It had only been 2 days, but the weird thing was that Greg hasn't tried to reach out to me after that text I sent him. You're no better than Edward's cheating butt. He hasn't even tried to call me. So naturally, this enraged me. I was so pissed off that I hadn't heard from him, and that he hadn't even attempted to try to fix things that I ended up texting Anaya's husband and telling him everything. He texted me back right away and said, "Thank you, Op." And that was sort of it. But then that same night, I get a text from Anaya, and it's simply a screenshot of him talking to her husband and Edward in a group chat. And they're talking explicitly with each other about what they plan on doing to Anaya, and this was dated 4 months ago. I dropped my phone. Then more screenshots come through, and it's the same sort of thing, but 2 months ago, and then more that happened just recently. Then she sends me a text and says, "Now I'm spilling his secrets, witch." So I effing saved all those screenshots and sent them to him, and told him we are over. So effing over. I knew it was fishy of him to defend them like that, and to try to take care of it and stay out of it. What a cheating, lying butt, son of a witch. Then he tries calling me, but I'm already on the phone with my mom and dad, and I'm telling them what happened, and my dad's like, I know exactly what to do. So, within the coming weeks, he starts an investigation with Anaya and gets her written up for things that she's been effing up at work. She's also been lying on her timesheets, so that's huge. People have been saying that they're having problems with her for quite some time. But he didn't want to say anything to me because he thought we were best friends. So for quite some time, he's been protecting her at work too. But now I'm like, no, Dad. Kick that witch to the curb. He also gave me the name of a client friend of his who's a lawyer, and we're starting the process with that now. As for Edward, I have his wife on Instagram and sent her the screenshots that Anaya sent me and apologized that she had to find out this way. I said I'm here for her if she needs anything. Finding out about Greg's involvement in those explicit group chats with Anaya and Edward must have been like a punch to the gut. It's one thing to suspect something's off, but to have concrete evidence laid out in front of you like that, heartbreaking doesn't even begin to cover it. But kudos to you for taking decisive action and standing up for yourself. You deserve so much better than to be tangled up in someone else's web of lies and infidelity. And reaching out to Anaya's husband and Edward's wife with those screenshots, that took real courage. It's not easy to be the bearer of bad news, but sometimes it's the right thing to do. especially when people's lives and well-being are at stake. It's also heartening to hear that your dad has your back. Update 3. I had my dad serve Greg divorce papers, and my dad said he tore them apart in front of him. I also changed the locks on the house and changed the passcodes on the garage door. Greg tried to come by once and freaked out, calling me after he realized he couldn't get in. I also called his parents and sent them the same screenshots. They're totally on my side and not speaking to him. He's been cut off by everybody except his loser friends who think it's okay to lie and cheat. I also heard that he had a big F-up at work, and it cost the company a lot of money, so there's that. I checked in to see his location from time to time just for curiosity's sake. He's been staying at Edwards. That's in poor taste. Also, Anaya has been let go. I'm just trying to enjoy life with our little boy. I've gone for full custody and alimony. I've also been brainstorming and starting up my own business, but I'm honestly just trying to take it slow. I'm just trying to get as much cuddle time in with my son as I can and get through all of this and just do my own thing and hang around people that want to do good and be good. Deciding to serve Greg with divorce papers and take control of your home environment shows that you're not willing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. Cutting off toxic relationships, even when they involve people you once cared about deeply, takes courage. It's never easy to let go of someone who is such a significant part of your life, but sometimes it's necessary for your well-being and happiness. I'm glad to hear that you have the support of your family and that you're focusing on what truly matters, your son and your peace of mind. What do you make of this? What would you have done in this situation? And thank you for joining us today on our channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.